Natural law theory of ethics is a philosophical framework that suggests there are inherent laws in nature that guide human conduct and morality, rooted in the idea that certain principles are universally applicable, regardless of cultural or societal norms. Natural law theory asserts that there are fundamental objective moral truths. However, when applying this theory to contentious topics such as homosexuality, it sparks a complex discussion that delves into the intersection of morality, human nature, and societal norms. The implications of natural law theory on homosexuality have been a subject of extensive debate. Advocates of this theory often argue that the primary purpose of human sexuality, as understood through natural law, is procreation within a heterosexual framework. Hence, some interpretation of natural law theory view homosexual behavior as contrary to the natural order, as it designed or aligned with the intended purpose of human sexuality, which is seen as a continuation of the species. However, the applications of natural law theory to discussions about homosexuality raises critical questions and challenges. It confronts us with the need to balance a perceived natural order with the diverse, complex realities of human existence. It prompts considerations about the nature of human relationships, individual autonomy, and the evolving understanding of human rights and dignity. The discussions surrounding the natural law theory and its implications on homosexuality reflects the ongoing tension between the traditional ethical frameworks and the ever-evolving understanding of human rights, diversity, and societal acceptance. This intersection prompts a deeper exploration of how ethical theories intersection with personal freedoms, societal progress, and the evolving moral landscape of the modern world. To further understand this topic, let us focus on the homosexuality and natural law theory. And here is the two factors to consider in understanding homosexuality. First, factors to consider in understanding homosexuality. Second, a short historical description of homosexual practices in the Philippines. First, factors to consider in understanding homosexuality. The word homosexual is a Greek and Latin hybrid, with the first element derived from Greek word homos, which means same. However, it is not related to the Latin homo, which means man, as in Homo sapiens, thus connoting sexual acts and affections between members of the same sex. Now, the real question is, what is homosexuality? Well, homosexuality is a sexual attraction, romantic attraction, or sexual behavior between members of the same sex or gender. As a sexual orientation, homosexuality is an enduring pattern of emotional, romantic, and or sexual attractions, exclusively to people of the same sex or gender. It also refers to a person's sense of identity based on those attractions, related behaviors, and membership in a community of others who share those attractions. So here is the short historical description of homosexual practices in the Philippines. Pre-colonial Philippines has a colorful cultural practices, interesting language, and fantastical myths. Babaylan system, the Filipino version of a shaman who was a healer, diviner, and priestess in indigenous communities. While the Babaylan was typically a woman, well respected in her community for her ability to bridge material and spiritual worlds. Historical accounts showed that there were also male Babaylan who crossed genders, making them symbolic icons for the Philippine LGBTQIA plus movement today. The indigenous practice of having a babaylan did not last long during the Spanish colonization, as the colonizers found this powerful class of Filipinos a threat. However, over a century after the Spanish colonization left, a vibrant modern LGBTQIA plus community keeps the memory of these pre-colonial icons alive. So, did you know that from the past, the Philippines or the Babaylan system is led, was once led by gay, gay people to be exact. Well, at that time, na ay nagkalisod sa kung ano resources when it comes to women. So women in the society at that time was really great. So women leading a certain pack is necessary for them. So, what they did, kay, kana, ilang collect sila og kuan kanang men, more sa nahog election na that time. And then, ni-appoint sila, and then, yeah, cross-gender ang lalaki para mo stand as babae or the usual babaylan. Therefore, homosexual presence in the Philippines has already existed before the colonization took place. Now, here is the natural law theory, the rule of the Garden of Eden. Natural law theory and the objections of natural law theory will be the focus on this topic. Natural law theory. The dominant theory of ethics is not the divine command theory. Now, to further assess this, let us know what is the divine command theory. Roughly, divine command theory is the view that morality is somehow dependent upon God and that moral obligation consists in obedience to God's commands. Compared to natural law, what makes natural law a more dominant theory of ethics? Natural law is a philosophical theory that suggests or that states that humans have certain rights, moral values, and responsibilities that are inherent in human nature. Natural law theory is based on the idea that the natural laws are universal concepts and are not based on any culture or customs. So for us to further understand what natural law theory, so here are the three main parts. First, the theory of natural law rests on a particular view of the world. Second, laws of nature describe not only how things are but also how things ought to be. Third, a concern on moral knowledge. How can we tell right from wrong? The theory of natural law rests on a particular view of the world. On this view, the world has a rational order with its values and purpose built into its very nature. So this idea comes from the Greek words, whose worldview dominated Western thinking for over 1,700 years. Everything in nature has a purpose. That's what the Greeks believed. Well, this kind of thought, Aristotle built this idea into system of thought, the ability of humans to think and reason. So, to think and to reason, this is what understanding is all about. So here are four questions must be asked to understand anything. First, what is it? Second, what is it made of? Third, how did it come to be? Fourth, what is it for? So this is the account of Aristotle. So let's say a pen. So what is it? It is a pen. And a pen is made out of plastic and acrylic material, metal, wood, etc. So that is the answer of what is it made of. And how did it come to be? So a pen existed or was first invented by the inventors Laszlo Miro, John J. Loud, and Michael Beach. And fourth, what is it for? A pen was invented for writing. Well, according to Aristotle, nature, he said, belongs to the class of causes, which act for the sake of something. So obviously, a pen was invented to serve originally its function for writing. The question, what about the objects that humans did not even invent? Aristotle believed that they have purposes too. One of his examples was that we have teeth so that we can chew. Biological examples are quite persuasive on this part. So each part of our bodies does seem intuitively to have a special purpose. Our eyes are for seeing. Our ears are for hearing. Our skin exists to protect us, and so on. But Aristotle's claim was not limited only to organic beings. According to him, everything has a purpose. To take a different sort of example, he thought that rain falls so that plants can grow. So according to Aristotle, everything is interconnected in this platform or in this world. Everything that is organic and inorganic has a purpose that must be served on, that we serve on. On the other hand, Aristotle considered alternatives. For example, he asked whether the rain might fall of necessity, which helps the plants only by coincidence. The world, Aristotle thought, is an orderly rational system in which thing or in which each thing has a proper place and serves its own special purpose. So there is a neat hierarchy. The rain exists for the sake of the plant exists for the sake of the animals, and the animals exists, of course, for the sake of people. Aristotle says, if then we are right in believing that the nature makes nothing without and in some end in view, nothing to no purpose, it must be the nature has made all things specifically for the sake of man. So this kind of idea is very anthropocentric or human-centered, which is very, um, which is highly debatable by many theorists. But Aristotle was hardly alone in having such thoughts, because almost every important thinker in human history has advanced such theses, where humans are remarkably vain species. On the other hand, the Christian thinkers who came later to found this worldview appealing, only one thing was missing, and that is the existence of God. So the Christian thinkers said that the rain falls to help the plants because that is what God intended, and the animals are for humans because that is what God made them for. So values and purposes were thus seen as part of God's plan. So the only difference with this is that the Christian thinkers believed or cherry picked this kind of idea to justify the existence of things that are made for humans. The second part of natural law theory is laws of nature describe not only how things are, but also how things ought to be. So the world is harmony when things serve their natural purposes. When they do not or cannot, things have gone wrong. For example, eyes that cannot see are defective. So droughts is a natural evil. So indirect result of original sin, just as moral evils are. So according to this theory, everything that has purpose must be followed, or ang purpose sa kana nga butang kay dapat ma-follow. Kay if ever dili ma-follow, it will be directly translate to immoral act. So there are also implications for human conduct. Moral rules are now viewed as deriving from the laws of nature. So nature, some ways of behaving are said to be natural, while others are regarded as unnatural and unnatural. Acts are seen as morally wrong. So just like what I told kanina, nga the natural acts are seen as morally wrong. Now this leads us to beneficence, or synonym word kindness. We are morally required to care about our neighbors. That's what the Bible told us. So according to the theory of natural law, beneficence is natural for us, given the kind of creatures we are. We are by nature social and need the company of other people. Someone who does not care at all about others, who really does not care through and through, is seen as deranged. So, according to the modern psychiatry, says that such people suffer from antisocial personality disorder, and such people are commonly called psychopaths or sociopaths. A callous personality is defective, just as eyes are defective if they can't see. So here is the important thing that you must be informed. If you do not function what you ought to function in society, this means that you are defective, unnatural, which equates to morally wrong. Natural law theory has also been used, however, to support more questionable ideas. So what are these questionable ideas? Religious thinkers often condemn deviant sexual practices, and they usually justify this by appealing to the theory of natural law. So, to give a scale, if everything has a purpose, what is the purpose of sex? So the purpose of sex is procreation, and thus, sexual activity that is not connected with making babies can therefore be seen as unnatural, such as masturbation and gay sex. So this view of sex dates back at least to St. Augustine and St. Thomas Aquinas, which in this Modern set out, the moral theology of the Catholic Church is based on natural law theory. The third part of natural law is a concern on moral knowledge. How can we tell right from wrong? To give a better understanding, so here is the differences between the divine command theory and the theory of natural law. The divine command theory suggests that we must consult God's commandments, while natural law theory suggests that natural laws of morality are just laws of reason. So what's right is right. What's right is what's supported by the best arguments. On this view, we can figure out what's right because God has given us the ability to reason. Moreover, God has given this ability to everyone, putting the believer and unbeliever in the same position. So, to give a recap, the part 1 says that everything has a purpose. Part 2 says that every purpose must be followed on the natural things equates morally wrong. Part 3, which states, theory of natural law has a better way of understanding what's right because it gives us our purpose to reason, putting theists and atheists in the same position. So here are the objections of natural law theory. Well, natural law theory has main appealing characteristics such as the belief in the objectivity of moral values that is grounded in the very nature and structure of our basic humanity, as well as the very notion of goodness as that which promotes human realization. Objections and criticism against it are also advanced. So some of these problems and objections are the following. First, can the way things are by nature the basis of First, can the way things are by nature provide the basis for knowing here ought to be? In a nutshell, this question translates to a Bisaya question. Mahimo bang ang natural nga kahimtang sa mga butang maghatag og pundasyon alang sa pag-ila kung unsa gyud ang kinahanglan sa sakto or kinahanglan or sakto sa tawo? Well, to answer this question, no. Because everything that is going on in the world in a multicultural setting requires different ways of thinking, especially due to the differences in our ethical customs or ethical norms. On the other hand, natural law suggests that natural law is a universal concept, but in a multicultural setting, there is no absolute truth, but a different customary law that depends on principles and practices. Second, if natural law is discoverable by human resources, and since reason is true to all men, then why is it so difficult to know and be certain what it is? A simple answer is, it is because natural law is discoverable by human resources, but there is no absolute law that we follow. Rather, we have different standpoints in every culture, different ethical measurements that we practice, and most especially different customary acts that we negotiate. This is because humans have the ability to reason, question, and provide answers. Thus, this is true to all men. Third, in what sense is the natural law a law? Natural law is a theory in ethics and philosophy that says that human beings possess intrinsic values that govern their reasoning and behavior. Natural law maintains that these results of right and wrong are inherent in people and are not created by society or court judges. The popular scientific theory of evolution may also present a serious challenge to traditional natural law thinking. So the fourth objection of natural law means that for Aquinas, the reason why nature had the order it did was because God had put it there. Overthinkers such as Aristotle did not believe that this order was divinely inspired. Thus, this allegedly natural moral order required that we believe that there is a God that has produced this natural moral order. Again, the question is that evolutionary theory has challenged much of the basis of thinking that there is a moral natural order. According to evolutionary theory, species have developed the way they have out of survival needs. So fifth, is human nature fixed? The answer is no, because it is doubtful that one can infer moral principles forbidding adultery, rape, homosexuality, and so forth, either from biological facts about human nature or from facts about the inherent nature of Homo sapiens.
The sixth objection to natural law theory states, if human nature is inherently good or bad. If human nature is the foundation of morality, it is assumed that we truly know what that nature truly is. The debates whether human nature is good or bad rages still until today with no clear end in sight. Seventh, what about the negative human tendencies? In relation, while natural theory claims that our basic human inclinations and tendencies tell us what are the things that are right and worth pursuing, it simply puts aside the fact that these inclinations are a mixture of the good and the bad. If a man in him has inclination that tend to promote human flourishing, it is also a fact that he also has negative and destructive tendencies. 8. The idea of Saint Thomas Aquinas that human nature originally comes from God as its author is problematic, since a simple rejection of that assumption that there is a God leads to the collapse of the point of the claim. This is aside from the secular interpretation that is advanced by some thinkers as to the meaning of natural law, for example, the one by Cicero. 9. What is natural for one may not be natural for another. This particular criticism finds support in the common observation that different people have different interpretation of what is natural and what is not. To base what is good and bad to what is natural faces the problem of the relativity of human values found in various cultures throughout the history. Tenth and the last. Is conscience always right? Another objection to the natural law theory is the theistic interpretation that brings in the idea of conscience as one that is in human nature that tells us what is right and what is wrong. But conscience tends to be subjective in its own interpretation of certain actions, aside from the fact that it is very much conditioned by a person's environment and upbringing. So that would be the objections to the natural law theory, or we say the criticisms that we encounter against natural law theory.
So before we move forward, let us have this analysis to reflect on. First, do you agree that homosexuality is a choice or not? Why? Second, what is your standpoint when it comes to homosexuality? Third, what is the biggest factor that makes a homosexual person immoral? So here is the abstraction of the whole homosexuality and natural law theory. Number one, homosexuality is composed of two factors, biological and psychological. Two, natural law theory has its strengths and weaknesses, which may vary depending on the variety of principles.
Good day, everyone. I am Job Jeremiah B. Torres and talking about the case study of Kitchen v. Herbert, which challenging the Utah's Amendment 3 on same-sex marriage. It is under the principle of double effect. So this story of Kitchen v. Herbert is significant legal battle that took place in the state of Utah or in the United States. It outlines the approval of Amendment 3, which restricted the marriage to a legal between a man and woman. The plaintiffs, or the three same-sex couples, challenged the amendment constitutionally, leading to a court ruling that Amendment 3 violated both due to process and equal protection clauses of the 14th Amendment. The court reasoned that denying same-sex couples has the right to marry lacked a rational basis and perpetuated discrimination. The 10th Circuit affirmed that this decision is subsequent from Supreme Court, which is denial of certiorari lead to the expansion of same-sex marriage recognition in several states. The case implication suggests that legalizing same-sex marriage not only grants legal benefits and protections, but also promotes societal acceptance and financial growth. In their claims, the legal challenge, the plaintiffs contended that Utah Amendment 3, restricting marriage to heterosexual couples, was in direct violation of due process and equal protection. But in fourth, the argument that the denial of same-sex couples' right to marry not only represented fundamental rights infringements, but also perpetuated an ongoing cycle of discrimination. In the contradiction, the state of Utah contended that the limitation of marriage to heterosexual couples was within its rights, and that same-sex couples were not entitled to marriage because they could still marry someone who is opposite sex. The court also rejected the state's arguments, highlighting that this denial amounted to a complete deprivation of the right to marry for same-sex couples. The double effect principle involves a situation where an action has both positive and negative consequences. The intention behind Amendment 3 was to support the traditional definition of marriage. However, as a result of its implementation, it led to the discrimination and denial of rights for same-sex couples. This created a situation where the intended purpose conflicted with the unintended harm caused to a specific group. When analyzing the principle in this case, we need to consider whether the harm caused by denying rights to same-sex couples outweighed the intended benefit of upholding traditional marriage values. Legalizing same-sex marriage not only provides legal benefits and protections to same-sex couples, but also contributes to the advancement of societal acceptance. By allowing same-sex couples to marry, there is an enhancement in the dignity and respect afforded to these couples and their families. Simultaneously, it underscores the importance of combating discriminatory laws, which can result in unintended harm and ethical dilemmas. And the fundamental principles of justice and equality, in this case of Amendment 3, the discrimination caused by its enforcement clearly outweighed the intended benefits, rendering the action unjustifiable from an ethical standpoint.
Good day everyone, I am Kent B. Credo from Bachelor of Science in Mathematics 3A, and for today I will be discussing two of the principles under the natural law theory. So we will see homosexuality through the lenses of the principle of inviolability of life and the principle of forfeiture. But first, before we delve deeper into the case, we have to know first the terminologies that may sound overwhelming. So we have to define first inviolable and forfeit. So what does to be inviolable and to forfeit mean? To be inviolable means to be absolutely secure or protected from being violated, harmed, or infringed upon. It refers to something that is sacred or protected, that it cannot be violated or tampered with. To forfeit, however, means to lose or give up a right, privilege, possession, or something of value as a penalty for failing to meet a condition, obligation, or commitment. It involves surrendering or relinquishing something due to a failure or breach of an agreement or a set of rules. So now I think we can proceed to the case. So, case LGBTQIA plus community against a pastor and a barangay captain. A pastor became distressed upon learning that many LGBTQIA plus teenagers in their community had formed a group with the objective of protecting members of the LGBTQIA plus community from any form of harm and providing them with a safe space. The pastor disagreed with this initiative and instead initiated the Oplan Balik sa Ginoo program, asserting that homosexuality leads to damnation and that the lives of LGBTQI plus individuals lack purpose compared to those who are not homosexual. Members of the LGBTQI plus community remained resolute in their cause. After several days of debates, one of their members went missing, followed by another a few weeks later. The group grew increasingly concerned and alarmed, demanding a thorough investigation. After a week, it was discovered that the two missing members had been killed by the barangay captain, who happened to be a friend of the pastor. Clearly, the barangay captain posed a grave threat to the LGBTQIA+ community. Provided that, though this may sound unrealistic, but provided that the barangay captain is very rich and has a lot of connections, making him able to dodge all the lawsuits. Is it morally justifiable for the pastor to conduct the aforementioned program, compelling the LGBTQIA+ individuals to return to the Lord and lead more purposeful lives? Is it morally permissible for the LGBTQIA+ community to seek retribution against the barangay captain that means to kill him for the death of their two members? So we provided claims and contradictions to this. So we have here, by the principle of inviolability of life, to coerce the community of LGBTQIA+ individuals to join a group after having their lives judged to be of less significance is morally objectionable. That's something that shouldn't be allowed. By the said principle, every life has equal significance regardless of their sexual orientation, color, race, etc. Thus, nobody has the right to tell whose life is more important than the other. It is not morally justifiable for the pastor to conduct such program. The program's assertion that homosexuality leads to damnation is discriminatory and promotes harm towards the LGBTQIA+ individuals. It is essential to respect and support the rights and choices of individuals in matters of their sexual orientation and identity, rather than attempting to force them into a specific religious belief or lifestyle. But however, some may say that the pastor's intention is to encourage the people to live a life he thinks is good for them. Morality is subjective, and opinions on this matter may vary. Some individuals may argue that the pastor is acting based on his religious beliefs and genuinely believes he is guiding LGBTQIA+ individuals toward what he sees as a better path. However, the approach conflicts the principle of inclusivity and respect for diversity, which many people consider morally justifiable. It is important to promote understanding and acceptance of LGBTQIA+ individuals rather than attempting to change their sexual orientation against their will. For the next claim, this is for the second question. So, by the principle of forfeiture, the barangay captain has already forfeited his innocence and his right to life for killing two of the members. Thus, the barangay captain is now the would-be assailant of the members of the LGBTQIA+ community, meaning he possesses grave threat to the group. Provided that the barangay captain is still on the loose despite killing two members, killing the barangay captain could be a proactive measure to keep the members of the group safe and free from any violence. Such action, killing the barangay captain, is deemed less murderous compared to when they let every member of the group be murdered. So, for the contradiction, killing the barangay captain wouldn't be morally justified. The principle of forfeiture suggests that individuals who violate the rights and well-being of others may forfeit their own rights to some extent, but it does not inherently condone extrajudicial actions such as taking a life. The morally justifiable course of action, even under the principle of forfeiture, is to pursue justice through legal means. The LGBTQIA+ community should seek justice through the established legal system, report the crime to the authorities, and work towards ensuring that the barangay captain is held accountable through a fair and lawful process. This approach respects the principle of justice and the rule of law, which are crucial in a just and orderly society. Let this be very clear that when a member is attacked by the barangay captain with the intent to kill that member, the said member who is being attacked may be involved in killing the barangay captain as an act of self-defense, provided that there is no other way out. In that way, the killing is morally justified. So now we will proceed to the explanations as to why those claims and contradictions exist. So, for the principle of inviolability of life, the principle of inviolability of life is greatly intertwined with religion. So are the judgments received by those who are homosexual. What I mean is, most, if not all people who are not open about homosexuality claim that homosexuality leads one to hell. The principle of inviolability of life is a fundamental ethical concept that asserts the inherent value and sanctity of human life, promoting the idea that human life should not be intentionally harmed or taken without just cause. When relating this principle to the concept of homosexuality, it is essential to emphasize that the principle of the inviolability of life applies to all individuals regardless of their sexual orientation. This means that a person's sexual orientation, including homosexuality, shouldn't be used as a justification to harm or discriminate against them. Respecting this ethical principle means recognizing and valuing the lives of individuals irrespective of their sexual orientation and promoting equality and non discrimination. For the principle of forfeiture, the principle of forfeiture is an ethical concept that suggests that a person can forfeit certain rights or claims based on their actions or behavior. It is often invoked to justify consequences or punishments for individuals who have acted in ways that violate the rights or well being of others. This principle is closely related to theories of retribution and justice. The basic idea behind the principle of forfeiture is that if someone engages in wrongful or harmful actions, they may lose their moral entitlement to be treated with the same consideration and rights they would otherwise enjoy. The application of the principle of forfeiture in ethics is complex and can vary depending on the specific ethical framework or legal system. It raises questions about the limits of punishment, the conditions under which forfeiture can be justified, and the principles of proportionality and fairness in imposing consequences. So finally, we are now down to the key takeaways. The principle of inviolability of life underscores the importance of respecting and valuing every person's life, including those who identify as homosexual, and it provides an ethical foundation for promoting inclusivity and equality in society. To uphold this principle, it is essential to create an environment in which all individuals, regardless of their sexual orientation, are treated with dignity and respect. On the other hand, the principle of forfeiture is a concept in ethics that suggests that individuals may lose certain rights or claims based on their wrongful actions, and it is often invoked to justify consequences or punishments in matters of justice and ethics. So I think this is all for me. Once again, this has been Kent B. Credo from Bachelor of Science in Mathematics 3A. Thank you.
Good day. I'm April Cortez Dehito that we're going to discuss the third case, which is the transition and puberty blockers, according to the principle of totality and stewardship. Simple expression of the principle of totality means the part of the physical entity as parts are ordained to the good of the physical whole. From the medical perspective, the principle of totality would mean that all the parts of the human body as parts are meant to exist and function for the good of the whole body, and are thus naturally subordinated to the good of the whole body. The term totality points to the duty to preserve intact the physical component of that integrated whole. On the other hand, the principle of stewardship, often applied in environmental and ethical contexts, involves responsible management and care of the resources. In ethics, it extends beyond environmental concerns to include the responsible and ethical management of various aspects of life, such as social and individual well being. These principles guide ethical decision making by encouraging a comprehensive and responsible approach to various aspects of human life. The transition and puberty blockers. The Vatican News website recently printed an interview with a member of Pontifical Academy for Lives discussing the current standard of care for our teenagers undergoing transition and suffering from gender dysphoria. During the course of questioning, the member Dr. Laura Palazanes said that in order to accompany teenagers battling the psychological condition, it may be necessary to prescribe puberty blocking medication for a short period of time, so that doctors could better treat the patient. Since this is also the standard of care here in the US, it is instructed for us to examine the proposal through the lens of Catholic moral theology. According to the principle of totality and stewardship, is the procedure done by the teenagers and health expert considered to be righteous? Under the principle of totality, in the interest of their body as a whole, can physically manipulate body parts strictly only for the good of the whole body, whilst gender dysphoria elevation via transition may be for the good of the mind. It is said that transition and puberty blockers can provide significant benefits for teenagers dealing with gender dysphoria. Transitioning with the support of medical and mental health professionals can contribute to improved mental health, self-esteem, and overall well-being. Puberty blockers can offer adolescents more time to explore their gender identity, potentially reducing the stress associated with the physical changes of puberty. Access to these options can be crucial for the emotional and psychological health of transgender teenagers. That is why it would still not be good for the whole body, since it is theologically disruptive. In this case, dysphoria is not threatening the person's existence, nor it is causing serious and lasting damage to the body. In order to bring about good consequences, such as furthering psychological counseling, stopping suicidal thoughts and actions, she concedes permission for a short period of time. But the moral permissibility of the action must be determined by looking at the action itself. And only once it is found to be moral permissible can we examine whether it is an effective means for carrying out the desired end. In this particular case, giving puberty blockers for the purpose of delaying puberty in a teenager suffering from gender dysphoria is always wrong. During the pontificate of Pope Pius XII, the Church began to think about and teach more clearly what has since come to be known as the principle of totality. The Holy Father articulates the principle by reminding us that man is a user and not a proprietor of his body. He does not have unlimited power to destroy or mutilate his body and its function. Nevertheless, by virtue of the principle of totality, by virtue of his right to use the services of his organism as a whole, the patient can allow individual parts to be destroyed or mutilated when and to extent necessary for the good of his being as a whole. He may do to ensure his being existence and to avoid or naturally to repair serious and lasting damage which cannot otherwise be avoided or repaired. In short, the principle of totality serves a limiting function in medical practice. For the sake of a physical whole, one may sacrifice a part of oneself, assuming the choice does not do harm to authentic human good. What is often overlooked is that this principle applies to the physical whole and not a moral whole, the person. In other words, it is concerned with the physical well-being of the person. So while one may remove an organ that is contributing to some underlying physical pathology, even if that organ itself is not diseased, this does mean one can halt the otherwise normal functioning of an organ when it is thought to be causing some psychic distress. Our Lord's admonition to cut off your right hand if it causes you to sin would not pass the principle of totality. Nor would the case at hand that is stopping what is an otherwise normally healthy bodily function like puberty simply to relieve psychological distress. Any changes to one's body, the Pope said, are always limited by natural finality of the faculties and powers of his human nature. Whether or not for a short period of time, whatever that means, it remains a violation of the principle of totality to black puberty. To give another reason why the consensualist can be wrong, by allowing puberty to proceed, it may just as likely to lead the person to be more comfortable in he who or she is. Halting the growth of unsure persons and not allowing them to become more fully themselves could actually add to the confusion and not take it away. Given that is the natural way in which human beings develop, there ought to be presumption of innocence upon nature. It's compounded by the fact that it is impossible to put puberty on hold while figuring things out because these medications have lasting effects, such as permanent sterilization that will only lead to further psychological issues later on. Otherwise, with the principle of stewardship, the gap between homosexuality and the principle of stewardship in ethics is often bridged by recognizing the importance of respecting diverse identities and fostering inclusivity. Stewardship in this context involves promoting understanding, empathy, and ethical treatment of individuals, irrespective of their sexual orientation. The ethics of puberty blocking and transgender transition can be viewed positively within the principle of stewardship when approached with consideration for individual well-being, informed consent, and respect for diversity. It aligns with principle of care and inclusivity by recognizing and addressing the needs of individuals during their personal development. Absolutely, the principle of stewardship can encompass the acceptance of homosexuality, embracing diversity, respecting individual differences, and fostering inclusivity aligned with the ethical foundation of responsible care and management and stewardship.
As we bound to end into this topic, let us focus on the strengths of natural law theory. The critical assessment of the natural law theory. Strengths of natural law theory. First, natural law theory affirms our basic belief in the infinite and inherent worth and value of human life. For example, the explanation that everything that exists, organic and inorganic, has its own purpose. Second, it gives a purposive direction and coherent explanation of all realities in the cosmos. This purposive direction and coherent direction of all realities in the cosmos was explained in the second part of natural law, where every purpose must be followed, whereas the unnatural things may be considered unexpected or immoral. Third, it offers a clear and comprehensive guideline as to what are the things that we ought to do and not to do. According to natural law legal theory, the authority of legal standards necessarily derives, at least in part, from considerations having to do with the moral merit of those standards. There are a number of different kinds of natural law legal theories, differing from each other with respect to the role that morality plays in determining the authority of legal norms. Thus, natural law theory provides a universal conceptual framework of what is accepted custom and what should not be accepted. Fourth, it grounds morality in human nature that is discoverable by reason. This statement suggests that morality, or the principles of right and wrong, is rooted in human nature and can be understood through logical thinking and observation. It emphasizes the idea that there are fundamental aspects of human existence that, when examined and understood using reason, can reveal what is morally right or wrong. Essentially, it proposes that ethical principles are not arbitrary but are based on identifiable characteristics or traits inherent in human beings, which can be comprehended through rational thinking and analysis. This perspective implies that by examining the nature of humanity, we can derive ethical guidelines and understand what actions or behaviors are aligned with our fundamental human attributes. Fifth, it gives emphasis on the various human inclinations as something good, thus should be promoted and enhanced. So this concept emphasizes the positive value of diverse human inclinations and suggests that they should be encouraged and developed further. It focuses on the idea that the different natural tendencies, desires, and tendencies within individuals are beneficial and should be supported to flourish and grow. Instead of suppressing or devaluing these inclinations, the approach advocates for their promotion and enhancement, believing that they contribute to the richness of the human experience and have the potential to bring about the positive outcomes. This perspective celebrates the uniqueness and individuals and seeks to foster an environment that nurtures and amplifies these inherent inclinations for personal and collective well-being. So sixth, it grounds morality on certain universal human values such as the value of life, truth, and goodness. So this statement refers to a philosophical or ethical perspective that establishes the basis of morality by emphasizing specific universal human values. These values, including the fundamental significance of life, the pursuit of truth, and the recognition of goodness, serve as the foundational principles for determining what is morally right or wrong within this framework. By grounding morality in these universal human values, it suggests that certain ethical principles are universally applicable and can guide human behavior across different cultures and societies. The value of life underscores the importance of preserving and respecting life in all its forms. Truth highlights the significance of honesty, sincerity, and the pursuit of knowledge, emphasizing the importance of understanding and acknowledging reality. Goodness encompasses principles like compassion, fairness, and altruism, guiding actions towards what is considered morally positive and beneficial for individuals and society as a whole. So this approach essentially suggests that moral judgments and ethical decisions should align with these core human values, providing a foundation for evaluating the rightness or wrongness of actions and behaviors within a given context. Seventh, it coherently integrates the significant role of conscience in knowing what's right and wrong. So the statement it coherently integrates the significant role of conscience in knowing what is right and wrong, suggests a comprehensive understanding of how conscience plays a crucial part in determining morality. So conscience refers to an individual's internal sense of right and wrong, influencing their moral judgments and decisions. When something is said to coherently integrate the role of conscience, it means that it effectively combines or harmonizes different aspects in a logical and clear manner. In essence, this statement implies a thoughtful and well-structured framework or argument that accounts for the importance of one's conscience in discerning ethical choices. It recognizes that conscience serves as a guide, providing insight into what is morally acceptable and what is not. The integration of this understanding likely involves acknowledging the complexities of moral decision making and the intrinsic role that one's conscience plays in this process.
The eighth strand of the natural law theory is that it explains in a systematic manner why some things, the nature itself, are the way they are and their implications to human moral actions. The ninth is that it provides a religious dimension to morality as it is a good alternative to purely humanistic and secular ethical theory. Tenth, it categorically rejects relativism and subjectivism in our search for a valid moral principle that will govern our actions and conduct. 11th, it provides a reasoned justification as why some things are good or bad and right and wrong. 12. It offers a clear and logical guidelines in a complex situations, such as the principle of double effect and the principle of forfeiture. 13th, it gives a definite assessment as to morality of certain popular actions, such as the use of contraception and other sex-related actions, such as homosexuality, masturbation, sexual perversions, and etc. 14th, it offers a more philosophical alternative to the divine command theory of ethics. The 15th and the last trend of natural law ethical theory is that it is deeply consistent with our own intuition concerning the objectivity of morality. The strength of natural law is that it is based on universal human nature. The primary precepts are found in the morality of all societies. For example, not killing for no reason and rules about stealing are universal. Valuing reproduction and education are also universal. Moral thinkers from different cultures came up with similar moral prescriptions, such as the Golden Rule, to treat others as you would like to be treated, which can be found in ancient Chinese philosophy, Hinduism, Judaism, and Christianity. So this would suggest that moral views are influenced by a universal human moral nature. This is a good evidence that we are all born with a moral orientation towards the good, which is the foundation of the Aquinas theory. So this ends the strength of the natural law theory.